Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you for joining me again. I have some news to share with you for November 3rd, 2021. So the war is still heavy. OLA, Oromo Liberation Army, and TDF, Tigray Defense Force, are moving forward. The There is a report that TDF, in cooperation with OLA, uh, taking total control of Kamise, the capital city of Oromia Special Zone in Amara region. So that is now confirmed. The fighters are welcomed by the residents of Kamise. So that is one news, and there are some news about Abiy Ahmed looking for exits. Some media and the social media are circulating this news. So he is looking for an exit from the trouble he caused in that country. So this is unconfirmed, but is circulating on media like Oromo Media Network and others. He is looking a way to exit. Okay, let's start with United Nations expected report on the crimes and all atrocities committed in Tigray. This is, is a report done by Ethiopian Human Rights Commission person Dr. Daniel Bakkala with the United Nations Human Rights Commission. So Dr. Daniel Bakkala is assigned by Abiy Ahmed to lead that organization. So there is a bias in that area because he's paid by Abiy Ahmed, he's appointed by Abiy Ahmed, and he's not independent to do that investigation. When you accused the person, you don't make that person to investigate that accusation. You need independent body, So that's why you see some, unsatisfactory, especially by TDF force on this report. Let's listen. And I have some videos and also some news to read. Thank you again. Okay.
These mass graves in Maikadra in northern Ethiopia unearth what the UN says could be war crimes committed in the Tigray conflict. A joint Ethiopian and UN human rights investigation says rebels from Tigray killed more than 200 ethnic Amharas here in November last year. The conflict has now expanded well beyond Tigray into neighboring Amhara and Afar regions, and it's been devastating for civilians. The UN report found in the year-long war, Eritrean soldiers who backed Ethiopia's federal army, as well as Ethiopian government soldiers and Tigrayan rebels, have committed widespread crimes, including rape, torture, and killings of civilians.
All parties to the Tigray conflict have committed violations of international human rights, humanitarian, and refugee law. Some of these may amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity.
Ethiopia's government has largely welcomed the report while expressing its serious reservations about aspects of the findings. It's promised to set up a task force to investigate the allegations, while rebels in Tigray said the report is flawed, citing the involvement of the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission. But on the ground, the conflict is intensifying. Tigrayan rebels say they have captured 2 northern towns on a major highway leading to the capital Addis Ababa. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has urged Ethiopians to unite and fight against the rebels, and has warned that attempts to make Ethiopia like Libya and Syria will not succeed. Abiy Ahmed, who was re-elected in a landslide victory in June, is facing mounting pressure to end the war from
Don't call
Ethiopia's
it a
largest
landslide
humanitarian aid
victory.
donor,
It's
the
not a
United
landslide
States.
victory.
As the war approaches its one-year anniversary, the United States and others cannot continue business as usual relations with the government of Ethiopia. The extraordinary partnership we have enjoyed is not sustainable while the military conflict continues to expand, threatening the stability and the unity of one of Africa's most influential countries.
The Biden administration has suspended Ethiopia from a crucial trade agreement with the U.S.
Very significant decision by the United States. It is important to understand that it hasn't happened yet. In other words, there's a January 1 date at which it may become effective if there is no movement towards peace in Ethiopia. And if that happens, I think Ethiopia is likely to lose about $250 million.
And that could mean more hardship for Ethiopians. The UN investigation only looked into reports of abuse until late June, when the rebels regained much of Tigray. It does not include any attacks or civilian abuse since then. Priyanka Gupta, Al Jazeera.
Let's go live now to Samuel Getachew, who's in Addis Ababa. Samuel, first off, what should we make of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's response to this UN-led report, which has found serious human rights violations, some potentially constituting war crimes?
Well, to begin with, it's the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission is part of the Ethiopian government. It's a government agency. The head has been saying that they really want to investigate more. They don't have the resources to do so. To the credit of the UN that took the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission as a partner. But again, the Ethiopian side hasn't said much, but the allegation stands that all actors, including Ethiopia, Eritrea, and the TPLF, stand accused of some of the worst human rights violations in the history of this tribal nation. Even by Ethiopian standards, it's very troubling.
Talk to me about the latest developments on the ground there. How serious is an escalation, what we're seeing now with the TPLF taking towns, it says, which are on the road to the capital?
Well, Ethiopia hasn't really acknowledged the fact that TPLF has taken over Kambolcha, an important city, and Desi. But the fact that the local government is telling residents to register their weapons and defend their neighborhoods makes you believe that there's something happening that the government hasn't spoken of, that the TPLF remain to be a threat. The Prime Minister spoke to his ministers yesterday, highlighting the fact, according to his perspective, that the TPLF is a terrorist organization that needs to be defeated.
I don't know who's calling.
But here we are, and people are shell-shocked by the fast-changing environment of Ethiopia. The U.S. Embassy has told its residents to leave Ethiopia because of this.
We know that the TPLF has allied with other armed groups, with other fighters. How has the TPLF and its allies been able to make these sorts of gains?
Well, the historical fact is the OLA, the Oromo Liberation Front, which half of the leadership is, one of them is a minister, a senior minister inside Prime Minister Abiy's government. They fought the TPLF for 27 years and accused them of all kinds of violations, including human rights and lack of democracy. And for them to find a common enemy by itself is a milestone. But how long that relationship will stand is an open debate.
All right, thank you for that update there, Samuel Getachew in Addis Ababa for us.
Okay, so that is the United Nations expected report. So the report blames all, the forces involved in this fight. As I said, it might not be fair for the TDF who, defending these forces, the invaders, the Eritreans, the Amara militia, the FANO, the Ethiopian Federal Force. These are invaders who invaded Tigray, so they are equally to be blamed. That's why it's not fair. So I have other videos later on. So let's read some other news and come back to these videos. Thank you again. Ethiopia leader marking year of war says he will bury foes with our blood. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed pledged on Wednesday to bury his government's enemies with our blood as he marked the start of the war in Tigray region 1 year ago. Abiy, who was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2019, was speaking at a day after a state of emergency was declared in the country and with Tigrayan forces threatening to advance on the capital Addis Ababa. The pit which is dug will be very deep. It will be where the enemy is buried, not where Ethiopia disintegrates, he said in a speech at an event at the military's headquarters in Addis Ababa. We will bury this enemy with our blood and bones and make the glory of Ethiopia high again, said Abiy, who won the Nobel Prize for settling Ethiopia's long-time conflict with Eritrea. An earlier call to bury the enemy contained a statement posted on Abiy's official Facebook page over the weekend was removed by the platform for violating its policies against inciting and supporting violence, the company said, which is good. As the ongoing conflict in Ethiopia intensifies, we are committed to helping keep people safe and preventing online and offline harm through our platforms, a company spokesperson told Reuters. Facebook changed its name to Meta last month. I also reported on that one. During Wednesday's commemoration of the first anniversary of the conflict, a moment of silence was observed at the candlelit ceremony to commemorate those killed on November 3, 2020, when forces loyal to the Tigray People Liberation Front, TPLF, including some soldiers, seized military base in Tigray. In response, Abiy sent more troops to the northern region. The TPLF led Ethiopia's ruling coalition for nearly 30 years but lost control when Abiy took office in 2018, following years of anti-government protests. Relations with the TPLF soared after they accused him of centralizing power at the expense of Ethiopia's regional state, an accusation Abiy Ahmed denied. So credit Reuters. Rebels say Ethiopia capital could fall within weeks as US plan to send envoy. Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, could fall within months, if not weeks. An Oromo group allied with Tigrayan rebels told AFP Wednesday, as Washington announced it would send a U.S. envoy to the country to hold talks. The Tigray People Liberation Front, which has been fighting Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government for a year, has claimed significant territorial gains in recent days, along with its ally, the Oromo Liberation Army, OLA. Fighting has dragged on. Reports of massacres, mass rapes, and a starvation crisis have emerged, with the United Nations Rights Chief on Wednesday denouncing extreme brutality after a joint UN-Ethiopia report warned of possible crimes against humanity by all sides. In Washington, the U.S. State Department said it was sending Jeffrey Feltman, special envoy for the Horn of Africa, to the country this week. He will hold talks on Thursday and Friday to urge all Ethiopians to commit to peace and the resolution of grievance through dialogue, it said. Earlier Wednesday, Oromo Liberation Army spokesman Oda Turbi said his group intended to topple Abiy's government, calling his removal a foregone conclusion. If things continue in the current trajectory, then we are talking about a matter of months, if not weeks, he said. TPLF spokesman Getachew Reda announced late Wednesday that the rebels were working alongside Oromo Liberation Army to capture territory in Kamise in the Amara region, some 325 kilometers, 200 miles from Addis Ababa. Now, this is already confirmed. Kamise is totally captured by TDF and OLA. Joint operation will continue in the days and the weeks ahead, Getachew said on a Twitter. Ethiopia declared a nationwide state of emergency Tuesday and ordered residents of Addis Ababa to prepare to defend their neighborhoods. Abiy on Wednesday urged citizens to back the war effort and accused the rebels of trying to turn Ethiopia into Libya and Syria, as anxious residents of the capital voiced support for the government measures. They are enemies of Ethiopia and they need to be dismissed. And to do that, all of us need to cooperate with the state of emergency, said Asmarau Brahan, a self-employed man. Under the state of emergency, authorities can conscript any military-age citizen who has weapons or suspend media outlets believed to be giving moral support directly or indirectly to the TPLF, according to the state-affiliated Fana Broadcasting Corporation. Getachew said the measures amounted to a carte blanche to jail or kill Tigrayans at will. Two lawyers monitoring arbitrary detention of Tigrayans in Addis Ababa told AFP Wednesday they had received reports of dozens of people and likely many more rounded up by the city police since the emergency was declared, some of whom were taken from their homes. So this is the bad. I already said this is very bad for Tigrayans and Oromos, using emergency rule to arrest them, to search their house, to take down their businesses, kill them, torture them, whatever they want to do by declaring emergency. So it's not good. I hope it will not be long. Okay, this is U.S. Embassy in Ethiopia. A statement from Ambassador Catherine Tai on the African Growth and Opportunity Act eligibility review. Ambassador Catherine Tai today released the following statement on the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, AGOA. Today, President Biden announced 3 countries will be terminated from the AGOA trade preference program as of January 1, 2022, absent urgent action to meet statutory eligibility criteria. Our administration is deeply concerned by the unconstitutional change in governments in both Guinea and Mali, and by the gross violation of internationally recognized human rights being perpetrated by the government of Ethiopia and other parties amid the widening and conflict in northern Ethiopia. These countries are said to be removed from this program due to actions taken by their governments in violation of the AGOA Statute. The United States urges this government to take necessary actions to meet the statutory criteria so we can resume our valued trading partnerships. I will provide each country with clear benchmarks for a pathway toward reinstatement, and our administration will work with them to achieve that objective. So that's a statement from U.S. Embassy in Ethiopia. This is also from U.S. Embassy in Ethiopia, Travel Advisory, Ethiopia, Level 4, which means do not travel to Ethiopia. That's very bad for that country, very bad for Ethiopians and for those international visitors. Do not travel to Ethiopia due to armed conflict, civil unrest, communications disruption, crime, and the potential for terrorism and kidnapping in border areas. Read the entire travel advisory. US citizens in Ethiopia should consider departing now using commercial options. Travel to Ethiopia is unsafe at this time due to the ongoing armed conflict. Incidents of civil unrest and ethnic violence may occur without warning. Further escalation is likely and may cause supply chain shortages, communication blackouts, and travel disruptions. The Ethiopian government declared a state of emergency on November 2, 2021. The government of Ethiopia has previously restricted or shut down internet, cellular data, and phone services during and after civil unrest. This restriction impeded the United States Embassy's ability to communicate with and provide consular service to U.S. citizens in Ethiopia. The United States Embassy has limited ability to provide emergency service to U.S. citizens outside of Addis Ababa. U.S. Embassy personnel are currently restricted from traveling outside of Addis Ababa city limits. So this is very bad. The Ethiopian government restricted U.S. Embassy workers to not to travel from Addis Ababa city border, and it's very bad, really, very bad. And the U.S. Embassy is advising U.S. citizens to get ready and leave Ethiopia, and warning others maybe thinking going to Ethiopia. So it's a very bad image for Ethiopia. Concerned citizens, media repeatedly call on this prime minister to to open up for dialogue and reconciliation before Ethiopia reach this level. Very dangerous for its own citizens and for the global community. Okay. Saudi, United Arab Emirates join foreign pressure to overturn Sudan's coup. Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, the United States, and Britain called on Wednesday for restoration of Sudan's civilian-led government in the latest show of international pressure to reverse a military coup. Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok has been under house arrest in the capital Khartoum since being toppled on October 25 by military Chief General Abdul Fattah al-Burhan in a coup that derailed a transition to civilian rule and led to a Western aid freeze. The joint statement was the first in which the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, both regarded by regional analysts as possible backers of Burhan have called for the restoration of the civilian-led government and a return to power sharing. They and the two Western powers called for the release of political detainees, end of a state of emergency, and a commitment to a genuine civil-military partnership during the transition to elections. This will help ensure Sudan reaches political stability and economic recovery so that it is able to continue the transitional period with the support of Sudan's friends and international partners, they said. The transition was meant to pave the way for elections in 2023 after the army deposed long-ruling autocrat Umar al-Bashir 2 years ago during a popular uprising. Burhan has struggled to rally domestic support and faced a barrage of international criticism. Neighborhood-based resistance committees planned protest in Khartoum on Thursday. Various international and local mediation efforts have been underway for several days. One source close to Hamdok told Reuters that mediated talks were ongoing, but no deal had been reached. He wants detainees released and governing bodies restored before he would enter into substantive negotiations with the military, his office said earlier on Wednesday, denying a report he had agreed to lead a new government. So thank you for Reuters for that reporting. So that's the last for today's reading of the news. Let's share a couple of videos and finish today's presentation. So Sudan military leaders should abandon their desire to hold power by force. It's not working. You are isolated by global community and you don't have support from your own citizen. So that's bad. You need to listen to your citizens and the global community. If you don't listen, you're gonna go the same way Abiy Ahmed is going. Okay, let's see. This one is from United Nations, Ireland, talking to the media, briefing the media on Ethiopia.
Good to see you all.
And North Korea.
Regarding Ethiopia, Ambassador. I mean, look, on Ethiopia, you know, we are deeply, deeply concerned about the escalation and indeed the expansion of violence in northern Ethiopia. And also, I have to say, particularly concerned to now hear very divisive and hate speech that we feel is really damaging. We want to see an immediate end to hostilities. Neither party at the moment seems ready to come to the table. We want to encourage that we see an end to violence and importantly, as we've said several times before, immediate unimpeded humanitarian access. We've had difficulty following because of some communications challenges exactly what's happening on the ground, particularly in Tigray, northern Ethiopia. We know people are suffering, we know people are starving. We want to be sure that the fuel shortage that has affected and impacted people's ability to distribute aid is addressed very quickly. That's part of the overall approach. So a ceasefire, no preconditions, end to hostilities, unimpeded humanitarian access, and they're all preludes to what we've said has to be the ultimate solution, which is a political dialogue, both a political dialogue and a national inclusive dialogue in Ethiopia. It's an enormously important country. It's a great partner of Ireland over a very long time. We are really anxious to make sure that the country emerges from this deepening crisis now urgently, immediately. And we would like to see the Security Council say that. We know that there's a great degree of concern amongst many of the members at the table, and we would like to see the Security Council speak out. We've seen very strong statements overnight from the African Union, who have an absolutely pivotal role to play in this. We've said before, President Obasanjo, very, very important High Representative. We know that many other members around the table are working to support the parties on the ground. But critically, the African Union has a key role, and we're ready to support that also.
So what's the big hold-up?
Well, I'm not sure that you'd say there's a big hold-up, because if you were me, I'd tell you we're working night and day behind the scenes. I think we should speak very soon, and we're working literally today to enable the Council to do that. This has been a very fast-moving situation on the ground, so if there's been what you might call a hold-up, what I would call a serious engagement with establishing facts on the ground, it's been that the situation has been fast developing, as you know, and so we are tracking that very carefully. But I think that you will soon, ideally, hear a unified message from the Council.
I said hold up because the Council hasn't done anything significant on Tigray.
Well, I think the important thing we're doing is keeping the light shining on the situation on the ground. Certainly for Ireland's part, I hardly ever stop here to speak to you without raising particularly the humanitarian situation. Now, in this instance, we are working with all partners, particularly our African partners, who are close to both the players on the ground, but also to understanding the implications regionally. I think there are implications regionally, and we're working to get a result. Thanks.
Do you have a chance to look into the Russia-China draft resolution on DPRK? What do you make of it?
Well, the resolution, we've seen it. There's work underway. It's an important issue to be addressed, certainly. We have said in the past that we want to see the DPRK respect UN resolutions, and that part of that, of course, is the sanctions regime. But we want to see, the steps that DPRK has taken recently that we regard as in contravention of international law. We want to see that addressed. So we will continue to work with all our partners to make sure that view is reflected. Thanks.
Okay, that is the UN Ireland ambassador at the United Nations, briefing the media on the situation, fast changing situation in Ethiopia. The hold up, the journalist asked, is the true question. Nothing happening at the United Nations. Even strong statement, they cannot get why China and Russia are there. And they are perceived as supporter of Abiy Ahmed. 11 times they had a meeting on Ethiopia. 11 times. No resolution at all. No resolution. That is a hold-up. Nothing expected even in the future. They can talk day and night. They will not come up with one strong resolution. Nothing from United Nations. That is a hold-up. China and Russia, and in some extent India too. So that's the situation. They cannot have strong statement. Something expected from United States and the European Union. But nothing coming out. US already attempting to remove Ethiopia from AGOA starting January 1st, if nothing changed. And some other sanctions the United States talk about, so we don't know what, but Abiy Ahmed administration even losing before that sanctions is coming, losing the ground, losing his power, but he's still talking about bloodshed, still applying emergency rules against citizens in Ethiopia, creating more chaos, trouble, death, destruction, bloodshed. And now Ethiopia is a dangerous place to visit and for citizens to live in that country. That's a very bad level 4, very dangerous. Don't travel to Ethiopia. It's red zone. That's very bad for Abiy Ahmed supporters and for Abiy Ahmed himself and for Ethiopians in general. You know, concerned citizens media was talking about the problem that country is encountering, calling even on Abiy Ahmed to resign, calling on his supporters to turn against him because he's killing the country, destroying the country. Nobody was listening. Now we are in a red zone. So that's the update, and I will be back again with other news. Thank you again. Please share, subscribe to my channel, like, comment on it. I'm happy to respond it. And so long, everyone.